Welcome to this new section, I will call, of VonCam, which I will name tracks. Basically, I've been trying to do something a little bit different to show how I test the equipment and how I actually practice photography, experimental photography, in certain occasions. Like, for example, when I test the equipment, I usually take more than one camera, and I wanted to try to do something and have some episodes that kind of look like what I would like to find. And yeah, so first try, quite experimental. I went to the Jura mountain, that's northwest of Switzerland, near the boundaries with France. A really nice place where I'm going to hike and take pictures, basically landscape photography, but I want to show how things happen when I actually walk around and enjoy my time. I'm going to try to do some landscape photography. Here I'm in Astr in Switzerland. I'm going to go a little higher, see what kind of view I can have today, using different cameras, film mainly. Let me go here. Up, going under the cow fence. I'm going to go check on the top of the mountains, see if I can use my Linhof Technika 612 camera, as well as test Rolleiflex, the Rollei 135 camera with its magazines behind. Let's see what that results in. And also I will use my SL2 with the Ars Hori 50mm lens. And here, that's the beginning of that hike. Let's see a little bit later what I can get. Past a pretty steep first part of this hike, looking for inspiration, going on a trail inside the forest. A really nice place. You can actually see the slope here. It was pretty climby. But now it's going to be a little bit more shady in the forest, and might find some interesting places to take photos of. First shot I found kind of interesting is this small chalet back there at the distance. I thought it was interesting, even though on my digital camera I have a 50mm f2, the Astr Hori, which I opened actually at 1.6. It's a pretty complicated story, but it's dated 2.0. And also the ski lift. I thought some details were maybe interesting for a photo. So we'll see what that gives. But yeah, first shot really was mainly the small chalet that caught my eye. But we'll look at it. The first images here, the first image I must say is with my SL2, my happy friend that which I test all my lenses, and that's a ski lift, basically with the Astr Hori 50mm f2.0 lens. And the first image on the left, that's uncropped. I did one crop and to see more details in the middle picture, and stronger enlargement on the picture on the right to show there's a certain glow and high intensity parts of the picture where there's high contrast, and that's really part of the nature of this lens. But the picture in per se is not very interesting, but I felt it was kind of interesting. Here, this picture is more interesting to me. The ambiance is kind of, I don't know, something. I wanted to take the picture. It was basically this chalet on the other side of the mountain. The picture on the left, that's uncropped, and that's strong enlargements, just to show the details of this lens. Kind of glowy and not very contrasty when you enlarge, but still lots of detail. Here, that's using the Rolleiflex reflex camera with multiple backs. I only have one film here. It's the Kono Monolit 400 ISO black and white film, and the lens is a 50mm f1.4 Rollei lens. You definitely can see how different the results are. It's not in portrait mode, but panoramic. The grain is different. The bokeh is different. Obviously, it's a 1.4. Even if the f2.0 Astr Hori, the constructor says it's basically a 1.6. Still very different ambiance. Here with the Linhof Technika 612, That's a medium format camera, a really large surface of film, and that's Lomography Color film. You can see the detail is kind of very different, the ambiance very different. It's not the same story at all. And yeah, here we have an enlargement of, on the left, that's Linhof Technika. I tried to make it comparable. In the middle, that's a Rolleiflex with a black and white Kono film, and on the right, that's SL2 with the Astr Hori lens. As you can see, very different rendering, and that shows the importance of really choosing your equipment when you go somewhere. It's not that negligible. You can't just take a, well, you can, but you have to think about what you want to create. Okay, one thing interesting when you go hiking is sometimes you find some interesting thing. Here is purely improvisational, lacking inspiration. So you go sometimes randomly somewhere. I kind of knew that pass, but here this is just a great lighting situation, and this wall of stumps is just phenomenal. Let's try a few pictures, see what it comes up with. Here, being further in the hike, basically when I hike, suddenly I feel like, oh, I should take a picture here. And here, well, I felt like it. I liked this huge wall of trees, of sawn trees. And on the left, the SL2 Astr Hori, this kind of cool colors of the lens. There's a separate video about the lens, and the Rolleiflex, the black and white. I feel the black and white and the lens really have a different feel to it. I think it's nicer. I feel it renders better the feel I had. It's more contrasty, more really this very strong contrast generated by the film. Here again, 3 different versions. No digital here. On the left, that's Linhof Technika, this huge surface of film. Really good rendering with the Lomography Color film. In the middle, again, I think the Rolleiflex, the black and white, very black and white contrast from that Kono Monolit film. Works really great to my taste. And on the right, that's Olympus XA1, this focus-free camera. Kind of toy-like, but yeah, works even in those kind of, it's not the kind of camera I would have taken for a hike in the mountains, but it does work. And actually the results are interesting with the ProImage 100 film, which is one of my favorite films. Here, one picture on the left, that's basically almost the last picture taken with the Rolleiflex. I didn't have a problem. The Rolleiflex I had here has you have a rear back which you can switch, and you can basically have different films at once, like in a medium format camera, even so it's a 135 format camera. And that's the sawmill next to the tree trunks. The 2 pictures on the right, middle and right, that's just to show, usually when I go hiking I have this Peak Design clip. That was the original one, actually, the first Kickstarter they did, or he did, because he was a lone man creating his company. I actually have the new models, and I kind of prefer the old one. It's a little bit larger, seems less well designed, but it's been working like a champ for more than 10 years, and I actually prefer using this one than the newer versions. And here's the SL2 with the Astr Hori lens. That's the equipment I used to hike or go climbing. Here again, a comparison between the SL2 and the Astr Hori lens. So really digital with a lens that's kind of old school, but lots of precision, lots of it's very refined image. And on the right, that's the Rolleiflex with the Kono Monolit film, which I feel has more texture to it, something more poetic. In this next picture, there's the picture on the left. That's basically me when I don't know how to use a camera very well, or the camera is kind of glitchy. Here, the camera was slightly glitchy, and I didn't realize that the film was not really winding anymore. So I'm getting multi-exposure. We'll see a few examples after. So I'm starting to have multiple images at once. So kind of experimental. I kind of like the results. And on the right, that's just to show you everything you've heard before was recorded with this small DJI clip mic. It's not a lavalier, but it's worked great for hiking, and yeah, very, very practical. We're leaving those tree trunks and we're going to go check a little bit more, go a little further, check the forest a little bit more to see if we find some new images for inspiration, and at the same time enjoy the ride. I arrived in a place where the forest is a little bit deeper, and there's a really nice perspective here. Lots of contrast, really nice lights. I'm going to try a few pictures with the different cameras and see what we can get out of it. So yeah, let's check that out later. Here, while hiking up the mountain, I decided to use the Linhof Technika 612 for this forest, and really liked the results. And again, medium format photography, depending on the film you use and the camera you use, you've got loads of detail. And the picture on the right, that's an enlargement, very strong enlargement on the top of this tree in the sun, just to show you the kind of detail you get. And really, that's a picture I like. It's not landscape photography per se, but actually it is. There's all kinds of landscape photography that you can do. Here I was talking about the problem I had with the Rolleiflex. A really nice camera to use, kind of cumbersome, but I'll do more tests. There's a video coming up. But I actually liked the multi-exposure, the forced multi-exposure. That's a picture on the left. I was taking pictures, and at one point I felt like the film must have ended a while back, and so I decided to open up the cartridge, but that was after, when I came back from the hike, in one of those bags, light proof bags. And yeah, I scratched a little bit the film, but interesting, the picture in the middle and on the right, interesting results nonetheless. And then no more black and white pictures for this experiment. I haven't walked much from my photos with the trees, but I have this really nice view now. These are the forests where the trees were before. There's a photo, and here is this really nice view, in my opinion, where I really like the lights. Really looks like one of those paths from middle mountains, medium mountains. I don't know how you say that in English. Moyenne montagne. And let's take a few pictures. That's what I like when I travel, when I hike, or even in a city, and suddenly you have an ambiance you want to take. Here I took on the left with the SL2 and the Astr Hori lens this very, very detailed result. Actually, I like the old school style, slight coolness in the colors. Again, that's really part of the lens. And then in the middle, that's the Olympus XA1, just to show that even so there's less depth of field than with the Ars Hori, the results rather interesting, even with such a simple camera. Really nicely done lens. I did a video about this camera, so I actually liked the idea of having this camera with me. This non-battery operated camera worked great. And on the right, that's using my iPhone and my own apps. And that's the Camare app that you can find on the App Store, using some of my algorithms. And I like comparing the three pictures because basically it gives you three different ways of expressing the same place at the same time. And they have all their interests. But again, the importance of choosing the equipment you want to use for a certain picture. going around sometimes when I hike, there's no real subjects, but I feel like I want to take a picture. For those who know my style, I like those human places where humans have deserted. And yeah, the Astr Hori and the SL2 were great in that case of this terrace where no one was around. It was kind of an eerie feeling. And otherwise, I kind of like this small pass with gravel, and that was with Olympus and XA1. Again, be careful. I like the picture, but the small there's some kind of thingy to hold the camera that went on front of the lens. So yeah, be careful when you take pictures, and even more when you take it with film, because you can't take, or you won't take, 3 pictures of the same thing. So hiking for photography, I think, is a pretty interesting activity. It's a great way first to move your body, do some exercise. That's where sometimes I wonder, except for long trails, very long treks, having really light equipment, I can understand. Otherwise, it's kind of part of the exercise. But otherwise, it's a really great way to get a little bit more into yourself. Kind of a meditative experience, and at the same time gives you the opportunity to have a new look at landscapes and see whatever you can find that you would like to take a picture of and share it. Anyhow, I'm not sure doing those videos is really in the same philosophy, but it's an exercise and I can share it, so yeah. Here both pictures are taken with Olympus and XA1, and I found that interesting because even so the depth of field is pretty deep. It goes, well, I forgot how much, I think it's 5.6, with the high contrast that in the background of the forest on the right gives you the impression of a depth of field. So interesting camera to use, and interesting result here. Also, going around, I like the randomness of things when you go hiking. I like hiking alone most of the time because you're at your own rhythm. You can experiment with things, and when suddenly you want to spend some time somewhere. Here, I wanted to spend some time for the Ars Hori and the SL2, looking at how it worked with details, and those tree trunks were rather interesting. Really gave me a good idea of how potent Astr Hori could be for rendering that kind of detail. Again, the Astr Hori, walking in the forest, climbing up the hills. Really interesting rendering. The high contrast with this slight glow really makes it work, I think, for those 2 pictures. Now I've arrived in this big field with cows. Quite a classic view of the Jura Mountains. It's between France and Switzerland. I'm in Switzerland right now. And really nice, cloudy and kind of windy, but really nice view. I'm going to try to take a picture of this scene. And maybe there's a nice tree here, but I don't think the light conditions are really good. Might find some inspiration there. But yeah, I'll be for sure taking a picture of the cows. That's sure. This really nice view here, and let's see what that results in. Here at about the middle of my hike, on the left, that's the Olympus with the XA1 with the ProImage 100 film. Really good rendering. I kind of like the result. A slight lack of resolution, probably due to the lens, but still works great. I didn't expect that from that camera. It's a camera I see more for street photography or something human, but it did work well, in my opinion, again. And on the right, that's a basic photo taken with my iPhone 12 Pro Max with a wide-angle lens, just to show you where I was arriving. So really interesting ambiance. Here's a scene I feel inspired with. There's a hiker on my field of view, but I'll wait for a while. Here's this tree I was talking about before. Quite a dramatic environment in my opinion, with this reservoir staying here, and of course all those trees around this beautiful scenery with the cows below, the small road and the cows below the field. But yeah, I'm going to wait just for this hiker to get out of my field of view, and then I'll try a few shots. And on that plateau, what I found interesting was I really wanted to take a picture. I liked the tree in the background, this lone tree on front of the forest, but also this big reservoir for cows. And picture on the left, that's a medium format with that I think is probably the best picture of the three, but for my taste. But in the middle, the SL2 and the Ars Hori, very different rendering and this sort of coldness of colors again. And otherwise on the right, Camare with some of the algorithms I've coded, and just to show how very different a picture can be. And sometimes it's actually pretty hard to know what's analog and what's digital. Again here, I focused a little bit more on the tree I was talking about before. SL2 Astr Hori on the right, on the left, and Camare iPhone with my algorithms on the right. This algorithm is basically coding color depending on the detail, the information detail. It's kind of a complex thing, but just again another example of pictures I liked taking on that day. Here I found this meadow that seems quite nice. I'm going to attempt taking a picture, trying to create that sense of depth that we have in real. I'm about 2/3 or 3/4 up to the top of the mountain. It's a really nice place. I really think I'm going to focus on the center of the meadow back there, just to have this sense of depth. But yeah, I'll take a few shots and we'll see. The two pictures, left and middle, that's with Camare, and on the right, that's Olympus XA1. So very different renderings. Camare is in random mode, so basically it chooses my algorithm randomly, and that was the pass to the summit. So we were arriving at the summit now. A pretty nice view here. It's not that big of a mountain, but I kind of regret what I've said before regarding the weight of backpacks. Okay, it's a great exercise, but well, I'm kind of exhausted. I'm not sure it's really good for my breathing, but good exercise. We'll try to do some photos up there. So once at the summit for that day, a really nice hike. It's really nice also for your own soul. It's an exercise. Obviously here I took loads of equipment, was kind of too heavy in my opinion. Should have thought about it. But then taking pictures, that's Lake Geneva, Lake Léman, taken on the left with Camare, in the middle with SL2 and the Ars Hori. And a small souvenir, I knew the place, I've already done this hike, and I knew there was a small cafe on the top for hikers, and I drank a Rivella, which is a typical drink soda from Switzerland. And yeah, took it with Camare. It gave me some... It made it more poetic, I think, than just taking a picture with my phone otherwise. Now we're going to go back down from this incredible view, and I'm going to see if we have more inspiration going downwards than going upwards. But great hike nonetheless, and we're going to go head back this way. Beautiful sceneries. I should take a picture maybe here, but we're going back down from where we came from. Great day, fantastic experience. Going back down, Olympus XA1 on the left, lots of charm I think with film photography on this camera. I'll definitely take this camera again. It's really light, no batteries, nothing to do, focus free, and good results again in the mountains. And on the right, it's just an example of the video parts of this video. I did them with the DJI small gimbal. Really practical. I think way more practical than the iPhone or a GoPro or whatever. I kind of liked the form factor of the camera, and the results are kind of interesting. I'll see if I continue, but still. Here it's basically grain, some flowers up front. It's quite homogeneous, not that much contrast, but lots of details, and I kind of like it. I'm going to try. I'm not sure what that's going to give with film, but I'm going to try, and we'll see. Also, again, the same picture with the microphone, DJI mic. It really is such an ease to use. I kind of forget it, and when I want to record a note, it was great. Otherwise, on the right, that's again Olympus XA1. Some details of the forest going down I found interesting. Same place as before for the Olympus XA1, but with the Linhof Technika 612. Really loads more detail. Kind of like the results. Not sure it's very interesting, but yeah, there's something coming out from this picture. Going down is basically what I prefer. Maybe my face doesn't show that. Let's try this. Yeah, I'm not sure with the backlight. This gives a good idea of my happy face, but nonetheless, yeah, let's go back down and try to see if we have some other shots to take and enjoy. Here I'm pretty tempted to do a panoramic shot vertically. I've come through this place, this meadow, coming the other way around. But here I think the point of view, which is slightly different, gives me a good idea. Let's try something here, and we'll see. And also, one thing that I find interesting when you hike, here I was taking the same, as you've seen on the map at the beginning, I'm going back the same way, and it's later, it's obviously a few hours later, and so I see different details, I see different points of view. And again, on the two first picture left and middle, that's Camare, so the iPhone with my algorithms, my software, and on the right, that's Olympus XA1. Not the same light of the day, not the same focus on things. It's really, I think it's interesting sometimes when you go hiking, or don't always do a hike that goes round through a different place. Sometimes just for photography, it's interesting to go back on the same places. Again, same place, I'm going back, there's this wall of tree trunks, and I'm on the other side, and because I'm coming back, I definitely have a different point of view. The light is different, the sun is not at the same point, so you have a very different ambiance, and I kind of like those two pictures taken with the SL2 and the Ars Hori lens. Here we come back, after a few hours of experimenting with cameras and lenses. As usual, those moments are for me not only a great moment to enjoy nature and move a little bit, discover places, but it's also a great way to experiment one lens or one camera in particular, some equipment, some gear. Here I was experimenting basically one thing, but I had a few cameras with me, so you'll find some photos from, I talked about some Technorama today, but basically these photos. It's a great occasion in any case for me to find inspiration, experiment and practice. And here it is. It was also a good way to try my new equipment. Oh, and here, butterflies. Woo! I don't know if you see them. And finally, here it's just the end of the roll for my Linhof Technika camera, but I always like the last pictures. There's some weird thing to them, the mystery of what I missed. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, or it was entertaining to watch this first episode of Tracks for the VonCam playlist. If you have ideas, places you want to see, or techniques or whatever, don't hesitate to post comments below, and yeah, catch you next time.